इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड मामले में एसबीआई को झटका देते हुए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया को जमकर फटकार लगाई है। साथ ही सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जानकारी देने के लिए समय विस्तार की मांग कर रही याचिका को भी खारिज कर दिया है। यही नहीं, एसबीआई की तरफ से सुप्रीम कोर्ट में पैरवी कर रहे देश के नंबर 1 वकील हरीश साल्वे भी बैक फुट पर नजर आए। 5 जजों की बेंच की अगुवाई कर रहे चीफ जस्टिस डीवाई चंद्रचूड़ साल्वे की हर दलील को काट रहे थे। कई बार तो ऐसा लग रहा था कि साल्वे जैसे दिग्गज वकील की दलील जजों को प्रभावित नहीं कर पा रही है। साल्वे जैसे दिग्गज वकील आज अपने मुवक्किल एसबीआई को चुनावी बॉन्ड के बारे में डिटेल देने के लिए और मोहलत हासिल करने में असफल रहे। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड को अवैध बता दिया और स्टेट बैंक द्वारा समय मांगने वाली याचिका को खारिज करते हुए 12 मार्च को उसे चुनावी चंदे का सारा डेटा चुनाव आयोग के साथ शेयर करने का आदेश दिया। यहाँ तक नहीं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने चुनाव आयोग को शुक्रवार शाम 5 बजे तक जानकारियां प्रकाशित करने के भी आदेश दिए हैं। साथ ही सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बैंक को चेतावनी भी दी है कि अगर कल तक जानकारी नहीं दी गई तो अवमानना की कार्रवाई की जाएगी। इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड पर आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जो सबसे बड़ी सुनवाई हुई है, 5 जजों की बेंच ने जो सबसे बड़ा फैसला दिया है, उसका पूरा वीडियो पहले आप हिंदी टेक्स्ट अनुवाद के साथ देखिए। इसके बाद आपको आगे बताएंगे कि इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड पर जो एसबीआई लिस्ट जारी करेगी उससे क्या राजनीतिक दलों की टेंशन बढ़ेगी। साथ ही आपको बताएंगे कि ये इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड कब आया था। पहले आप हिंदी टेक्स्ट अनुवाद के साथ कोर्ट की ये पूरी कार्रवाई देखिए।
By a judgment dated 15 February 2024, this court declared the electoral bond scheme and the provisions of the Finance Act 2017, which amended the provisions of the Representation of the People Act 1951 and the Income Tax Act 1961 unconstitutional on the ground that the non-disclosure of information regarding the funding of political parties is violative of the right to information of citizens under Article 19, Bracket 1, Bracket A of the Constitution. Full stop. The amendments which were introduced by the Finance Act 2017 with the provisions of the Companies Act 2013, permitting unlimited funding of political parties by corporate entities was held to be arbitrary, and violative of Article 14 of the Constitution. Full stop. Next para. In order to give full effect to the judgment which was rendered by the Constitution Bench, this court directed the State Bank of India, footnote SBI, which was the authorized bank to deal with electoral bonds under the Electoral Bond scheme, to submit details of the electoral bonds purchased by the contributors and redeemed by political parties between 12 April 2019, into brackets, the date on which an interim order was passed by this court directing the Election Commission of India, footnote ECI, to collect details of the contributions, bracket, till 15 February 2024, bracket, the date of the judgment, full stop. This court directed SBI to submit the following details by 6 March 2024 to the ECI. A. Details of each electoral bond purchased, including the date of purchase, the name of the purchaser, and the denomination of the electoral bond, semicolon, and B. Details of each electoral bond redeemed by political parties, including the date of encashment and the denomination of the electoral bond. Stop. The ECI was directed to collate the information which was to be submitted by the SBI and publish it on its website by 13 March 2024. Stop. The directions of this court are extracted below, colon, आप कॉपी कर लीजिए, para 219 at page 76.
Right. The two page.
Para
Lord, it's 221, page 76 of the application.
the SCC has a, all right, आप ऐसा कर लीजिए, ये पैरा ऐसा है 219, 221 जो भी आप ले लीजिए, it may be on SCC online, it's 221. The para begins with the words, in view of our discussion above,
Yes.
okay, the following directions are issued, and the last word which you will copy down is the purchaser's account. Okay? SBI filed a miscellaneous application before this court 2 days before the expiry of the deadline, seeking an extension of time until 30 June 2024 for complying with the directions. Full stop. The petitioners before this court, dash, Association for Democratic Reforms, and the Communist Party of India, bracket, Marxist, bracket, dash, instituted contempt proceedings, instituted a petition invoking the contempt jurisdiction of this court against SBI for an alleged willful disobedience of the order of this court. Full stop. In support of the application by SBI, I've heard Mr. Harish Salve, Learned Senior Counsel. Full stop. Mr. Salve submitted that the information which was received by the SBI was maintained in two separate silos and were maintained with the utmost secrecy so as to fulfill the core purpose of the electoral bond scheme. Full stop. Learned Counsel submitted that disclosure is to be made of the information required to be submitted by SBI to ECI in the separate silos which are referred to in B and C of the operative directions, there would be no difficulty in SBI doing so, which, it has been indicated, would be completed within 3 weeks. However, it has been submitted that the difficulty of SBI arose since it construed the directions of this court in requiring it to carry out a matching exercise to match the donor details, the donor and bond details with the corresponding details pertaining to encashment by political parties. Full stop. While evaluating the submission which have been made on behalf of SBI, a reference to some of the key aspects of the scheme would be in order at this stage. Full stop. Clause 7(4) of the Electoral Bonds scheme stipulates that the information furnished by the buyer of an electoral bond shall be treated as confidential by the authorized bank and shall be disclosed only when called upon to do so by a competent court or upon the registration of an offence by a law enforcement agency. Full stop. Thus, in terms of the provisions of the electoral bond scheme itself, SBI is mandated to disclose information when demanded by a court. Full stop. What remains to be seen, what has to be analyzed is whether SBI is justified in seeking an extension of time. Next. SBI seeks an extension of time on the ground that the process of open inverted commas decoding the electoral bonds and matching the donor to the donations into inverted commas complete is a complex and time-consuming exercise. Full stop. To substantiate this argument, SBI has averred that, next line, A, information is not available in a digital format. Yeah, underline kar dijiye. Clause 7.1.2 of the standard operating procedure regarding the sale and redemption of electoral bonds stipulates that, into inverted commas, no details of bond purchaser, including KYC and other details, will be entered in the core banking system, into inverted commas complete. Thus, the details of the purchases of bonds are not available centrally, B, the donor details and recipient details are available in two separate silos, ये underline कर लीजिए, The details of the purchasers of the electoral bonds were kept in a sealed cover at the designated branch. These sealed covers were deposited in the main branch of SBI in Mumbai at the end of each phase of the issuance of the electoral bonds. Full stop. The information on the redemption of electoral bonds, into brackets, that is the original bond and the pay-in slip, bracket, was stored in a sealed cover and sent to the SBI, Mumbai branch. Semicolon. C. Matching of information in the two silos is a time-consuming process. Underline colon. The matching of the information on the purchase and redemption of electoral bonds would be time-consuming since donor information and redemption information is maintained in two distinct silos independent of each other. Semicolon. D. There is a large number of data sets to decipher, underline, colon. A total of 22,000 odd, I'll give you the figure.
22,217.
A total of 22,217 bonds were purchased between 12 April 2019 and 15 February 2024. Full stop. This would cumulatively add up to 44,434 data sets, since there are two silos of information. In other words, the compilation of this information would be a time-consuming process. Full stop. Next main para. The crux of the submission of the SBI is that the matching of information to ascertain who contributed to which political party is a time-consuming process, since the information is maintained in two separate silos. Full stop. Now, the operative directions which have been issued by this court, as reproduced earlier, the operative directions of this court directed the SBI to disclose the transactions as set out in direction B and direction C extracted above. Full stop. SBI submits in its application itself that the donor details and redemption details are available, albeit in separate silos. Full stop. In other words, the directions which have been issued by this court require SBI to disclose information which is already available to it. Next para. At this stage, it would be material to refer to the FAQs on electoral bonds published by the SBI, which states that the Know Your Customer documents must be submitted by the purchaser each time that the bond is purchased, irrespective of whether the purchaser has a KYC verified SBI account. Full stop. That is, वहां फुटनोट दे दीजिए और उसको FAQ क्वेश्चन नंबर 16 जजमेंट से मैं आपको बाद में बताता हूं कहां से लेना है आपको. That is one set of documents, into brackets, the electoral bond application form, KYC documents, and pay-in slip, can, bracket complete, can only be used to purchase one electoral bond. Full stop. Contributors who have an SBI account, as well as those who do not,